Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Be sure to become tattoo artists and tattoo the words Blockchain Bureau on all your clients' foreheads, as it really helps spread the good word of our channel. Anyways, today I challenged myself to make a game in 48 hours. Why? Because I like torturing myself. Anyways, as you see here, I got a simple map set up, and that's it. Let's begin. Okay, I'm gonna instantly start. Let's start the timer and go. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a capsule. This will be the player for our game. As you can see, I named him, and I'm now gonna edit the scale. And just so you guys know, I came up with an idea for the game beforehand. However, it wasn't sufficiently tested, so I'm not sure how well this will work out. So anyways, next thing I do is I created the script for the player's movement. I named it player because I do not have time to name these right. You'll see that as a common trend in this video. Anyways, moving on. So first thing I wanted to define was a rigid body, since I'll be using that to move my player. You might be wondering why don't you just use a character controller? You'll see why in a bit. Anyways, at this point I was already doing typos and I was really nervous. And if you haven't noticed already, this is a voiceover as I was way too nervous to speak as when I was working on it. So now moving on, I got a rigid body as well as a jump force. So in the start function, obviously I got the rigid body using get component. And then now I'll start to implement the jump function. So I said if input.getButtonDown. Basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to get a key press of space. However, in Unity they saved it as jump. So what will happen is I'll add force and vector3.up, that's where the force will be added, and times the jump force, of course, to control the amount the jump is, and then force mode.impulse. But right now there's an issue, and that is when the player jumps, he can infinitely jump if he spams space. So another thing I'm going to do is sort of get a bool that's called isGrounded and make sure that he's always on the ground. Okay, to initialize to false, however that was a mistake as you'll see later on. And I made sure that the player has to be grounded before jumping. That makes sense, doesn't it? You have to be on the ground to jump. However, I did cut a corner right here, and I used on collision enter to test if the player is on the ground. There's so much more efficient ways of doing this, however I do not have time, for example using a raycast or any other thing. So anyways, I tested for a collision with anything that has tag of ground, and I said if he does collide, then isGrounded will be equal to true. And obviously I did the typo again, and I realized this right here, and I set this to true, and hopefully, yep, I realized that, and I put it as true. Now, moving on, I'm gonna start, I think, first I'm gonna test it out, of course. And over here you might notice something. I forgot the rigid body. These little mistakes cost me a lot of time. Anyways, moving on, now testing it out. The player could jump and cannot infinitely spam space. So, that's working perfectly fine. Then I set the player to the left side of the screen, and I started working on the spawner as well as the obstacles coming at the player. So I created the empty and I called it spawner, took it to the right side of the screen, and then started creating the script for it. Basically what this will do, it'll spawn the obstacles that the player has to jump above, or if he collides with them, he'll die and lose the game. Okay, right here I defined the game object that it will be spawning. I just named it box because nothing came to my mind at the time. Probably should have named it something like obstacle or something, but you know, we all do mistakes, it's fine, it's fine. Hurry up though. So over here I wasted a lot of time, precious time actually. And yeah, so here I instantiated the box at the position of the spawner as well as at the rotation of the box itself. So now it's time to make the box itself. So I created the cube and I just positioned it properly and then just scaled it. So I fixed it on the X, fixed it on the Y, and just made it a bit bigger on the Z. So right here I was realizing a ton of stuff, and it would be better if I tested this out. So anyways, I did end up getting it right, and I added tag of, as you can see, box and ground were already tagged. So I added box and created a prefab of it, so I can then add it to the spawner as the prefab that it will spawn. Then I need the box to start moving to the left, so then I created that right now. So first thing I did was define speed. This is the speed as or of which that the box will move in. Next thing I did is I used transform.translate. I don't even know what Visual Studio corrected there, but let's just ignore it for now. So obviously vector3.left, because that's where the player is, times speed times time.delta time. So now the next thing I had to do was create the depth, and I think that's pretty much it. Let's see. So we gave the cube the box script. I did not bother myself to rename it, and here I realized something. I had it in update. Now I need to change this and put it instead into a separate function, and then use invoke repeating, so it can infinitely spawn boxes at a specific time interval. So right now you see me really panic right here, and now I'm creating the function called spawn. As you can see, I don't even know what I was doing. I just wrote spawn there thinking it would work. Ton of typos, didn't even spell private right. Come on, man, come on. And I pasted in the code there. So right now, this should work fine. The spawner as well as the box as well as everything. The only thing that would be left to do is that the player has to die on collision with a box. As you can see, I realized spawn is the same name of the script, so that threw an error at me. A lot of time wasted. So now, next thing I have to do was set this to trigger, and then create a new capsule collider that's also trigger, so I can use on trigger enter to kill the player. So I just used the predefined Unity function on trigger enter, and I said that if the other game object, as you can see many typos, but basically, if the other game object has the tag of box, then kill the player. So now, as you can see, more and more typos. That's exactly what I need. So destroy. Just look at that. Took me so long just to get the parentheses in. Anyways, moving on. So right here, everything should work perfectly. However, first let's test it out. So the player could jump. And what happened? Oh yeah, I forgot to define the box. Like I said, I wasted a lot of time on this challenge. So anyways, moving on. It was perfect or not. What was happening? And you went to the wrong script, Jad. I called invoke repeating an update, so it called infinite invoke repeatings. So now last try, hopefully this works. And yeah, pretty much did. And over here I thought I was done, like perfect, the player died and everything. And I went to check at the timer, and I was on 7 minutes, so I was like, hold up, there's something I could do. I went back into Unity, and I tried to create a death screen. As you can see, as you will see actually, that was a very big mistake on my part. And so I tried to make it. However, like I said, I did not plan this nor test it out. So this was all improvisation that I had to come up with. So I created the death screen, and I set it active as soon as the player dies. But then now it's time to face my biggest enemy, UI. So I had to create a UI. However, obviously I took a shortcut and just created a single button. And now we have to import TMP. Great, that's exactly what I needed. With all the time I wasted, I needed more time to waste. So now all I did was change the text to respawn, and I had to start working on the script. But then obviously I need to position it, and many might say that there's so much more efficient ways of positioning this, and what I'll say is I don't care. I didn't have time. So anyways, I continued, and yeah, I'd say this went pretty well. So I'm just gonna let you watch a time-lapse version of how I did the UI and death screen, as I can't be bothered to explain what's happening. And now obviously, after all the time I wasted, all I had to do was drag a button in, and obviously I didn't go past 10 minutes. Well, we can just pretend you didn't see that, right? Anyways, let's get back into Unity and test out the full game. I'd say I'm honestly proud of this, even though I went over the 10-minute limit and hit 11 minutes. I'd say I got a really good game out. Look at this. You can respawn and collide. I'd say it was a really good project. Hey guys, could someone recreate GTA 5 in a week? Wait, what?